Second.
Public hearing is now open. On tab L. Public hearing is still open.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Eric Froberg. I live at 1840 Keystone Boulevard. I've been a resident in North Miami since 1979. I live in the home that I occupy now since 1986. For the past 13 years, the property in question here has been a blight on the community, for lack of a better word. Originally, there was some problems that prevented the city to move forward on this property. Those problems do not exist anymore. This property has been a drug den. There's been several arrests made out of there. There's been weapons taken out of there. There's been all kinds of disturbances there that require police attention. This 1830 borders to their backside a vacant property, which exasperates the problem at 1830. I've been round and round and round and round trying to get relief on this house. It degrades the neighborhood. It affects the property value. It affects my property value. It affects my health to have to come home every day and see this place. In February of 2006, I stood right here at this podium and addressed this convened board. Ms. Sterrell, I believe that you were a member of the board then, as I know you were, Mr. Galvin, and I'm not sitting here telling you anything now today that I didn't tell you in 2006, other than it's still going on. I see 4 or 5 other faces out here in the audience that feel the same as I do, and I'm sure that they would be willing to get up here and reiterate or add to whatever I've given to you. I'm at my wit's end with this property. Something needs to be done, and I am asking you, please, 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 authorize the city attorney to move forward on this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Public hearing is still open.
Good evening, mayors and ladies and gentlemen of the commission. My name is Ringo Kayard, 12801 West Dixie Highway. We are here to encourage the city, to the city attorney, to go forward and do something with that property. I think we definitely need to have a better view of our city and to stop crime, which that property is a heaven for it. So I don't know the process that you're going to put together to make it happen, but I really believe as a taxpayer, the city should try to find a solution to solve that problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and staff. Annie Montgomery, 2082 Laurel Lane. I live in Keystone Point, where this property is located. It has been a disaster for the last 10, 15 years, whatever. And this gentleman that spoke previously, the first gentleman, has lived through horrors, not just now, but for the previous owner, which left for New York and deeded the property or whatever was done, but somebody received the property, I don't know how, and they rented it to several people. There were maybe 20 people there at a time. They were arrested, there were weapons, like he said, and now I think the city has so many liens against it, I think even more than the property's worth. I don't know in today's market what one could get for it, but in my professional opinion, I believe the property needs to be taken down. Land value is pretty much what it's worth. The city should investigate it, but the city needs to get control of it and take care of it. That's my opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Season's greetings, everyone. William Prevotel, 11950 North Bayshore Drive. I, too, would like to speak in favor of this proposal. I trust that the council will do everything it can to bring about a better quality of life, and this does represent a better quality of life and a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kenneth H., 776 Northeast 125th Street. I too would like to see this property knocked down, cleaned up, and eradicated. I walk every day, and one of my routes is through Keystone. This house is absolutely beyond the pale. But beyond that, we have a lot of properties in the city that should be knocked down and eradicated. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, and I got to commend the police department and the city manager for combining the code enforcement and the minimum housing and the sanitation all in one. When I was up in Illinois, a house like this, when I was working for the city of Bolingbrook, a house like this would be condemned, and we got rid of it. I don't know, the laws down here are a lot different than in Illinois, but when I was chief up there, within 2 months, a house like that would be gone. When you have something like this type of property out there, it just breeds, your property values go down, but it breeds criminality, and it pulls the whole neighborhood down. The broken window theory. I urge you, the council, to get rid of this property as soon as you can and set a new day and a new pace for getting rid of these dilapidated properties out there that are pulling the city down on our quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you. Public hearing is still open. Public hearing is now closed. The council members?
Yeah, I sponsored this item. I want to thank staff, our code enforcement, our police, who are out at this property continuously. I do drive by this house at least 2-3 times a day. I thought when the previous owner moved, it was like, thank God we're finally getting a reprieve of this property. But unfortunately, it was sold to a person who has no regard for our city. He has bought a house in Keystone for $10,000. He's already made that back in cash. He's bought it without any concern that there is a reoccupancy requirement for this property. We'll never get it. We have over $100,000 in liens. Our code enforcement is out there regularly. We have had drug busts. The police department has arrested these tenants for gun possession, and it took 3 months before this person got rid of these tenants, and he's going to do it again. He has nothing to lose. He is not intending to make a mortgage payment. If we wait for the foreclosure, it will take another he can sit there with this property for another 2 years while the bank forecloses. For minimal amount, I'm recommending that we start our foreclosure, take whatever action we can, in addition, whether it's a condemnation that might hurry the matter along, but we must take control of this house. And I'm trying to do this with other problem houses throughout the city, not just this one, but this one has been just horrendous. And if we don't do something, it will sit there for 2 years as is. So thank you, Madam Attorney, Code Enforcement, the Police Department, because you are out there regularly.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman. Mr. Manager, how much does this gentleman owe with the city in terms of lien?
How much? 104,000.
And how much is the property worth?
We don't have presently we don't have an appraisal on it.
When was the last time we sent any type of correspondence to him?
The code enforcement.
Good evening, Council. I'm Commander Blanchard. I'm in charge of the code compliance unit. The question was, when was the last time we received any
You still
correspondence?
any on the property?
We routinely do inspections in that area, as well as at that property, depending on the complaints that we receive. We just recently sent a notice to the property owner for a code violation for the exterior stucco of the property for deteriorating It has its dirty exterior, also for the pool violation, and for the I believe we also sent one for the unsecured doors and windows, but I'd have to verify that for you.
Yeah, through the mayor, we have 15 liens on the property totaling 104,000. And there's currently the assessed and approximately 390,000 of other liens on the property.
And-
So it's a total of 390 plus, I believe, 104
Correct.
that is presented in the resolution.
Okay, thank you very much, Officer.
Thank you, sir.
Where are we on the legal standpoint as far as the liens, are concerned?
The liens are recorded.
Mhm.
So all of the 15 liens that are referenced that would be accompanying this lawsuit are all recorded. So they've been recorded in the Miami-Dade County.
Miami-Dade County.
Correct.
The councilman?
Yes,
Mm.
I have a question. And you're going to foreclose on a private property, right?
That is correct.
How much is going to cost the city?
The filing of the lawsuit would be approximately $1,000 plus miscellaneous process serving costs and so forth. There are two liens, two mortgages, a first mortgage of approximately $343,000 and a second equity mortgage of $97,000.
That's mean you have mortgage for $440,000.
Yeah, roughly.
They have mortgage.
Who has the,
Right? 400,000.
You said 343 plus
343 plus
97.
97.
Yeah.
I want to throw in there, there is no obligation, if at some point we get this property back, there's no obligation on the city to make any mortgage payments.
440.
The liens remain. An agreement can be made with the bank at some point, but there's no obligation on our part to make any mortgage payments.
Can I interject very quickly for clarification? I think I'm kind of lost. I'm not sure exactly what is it that we're trying to do, and I'm sure that we have a lot of people in the audience who are not real estate attorney, nor a realtor, has no clue of what's going on like me. What is it exactly the councilwoman needs asking for the city to do?
The councilwoman is asking for the city to foreclose on
What
its
does that
liens,
mean?
to go to court
Mhm.
and ask the court to take the property because we have $104,000 worth of liens.
Okay,
So-
I kind of understand that part because we put a lien on the house for $104. But there was a question asked how much that the house was appraised. But we don't know.
No, we've not done an appraisal.
Updated
So,
appraisal.
no,
mean,
but
we
I
can-
just have to find out what.
I didn't finish.
Okay, go ahead.
When I'm finished. You said we have a mortgage of 400 and
There's two mortgages on the property.
yeah, total of 440,000.
Correct.
Correct.
If we foreclose, we're gonna have to pay that money.
No, we don't have to pay it. We cannot sell it without paying it off or paying a reduced price. But we do not have to start making mortgage payments.
I understand. We're not gonna make any payment,
Right.
but if we foreclose, we acquire the property.
And we take
we
control
still,
of it. We take control.
You
Okay.
take it subject to the mortgages.
What we're gonna do with it?
We can sell it.
What-
We can do a short sale. We can get some buyer, an investor, a developer to come in, tear down the house, build a new property, and work out a deal with the lender possibly to take a lesser amount.
Okay, where we gonna find the $440,000 to pay?
We don't have
In
to,
the event that if we're going to,
we don't have to find that.
okay,
We just need someone to
you're
buy
gonna
it.
demolish the property, right?
Pardon me?
You're gonna demolish the property, right?
We'll make that decision now. I want to get our foreclosure started. I don't want to just allow this particular owner to stay in that property and continue to rent it to bad people, to criminals, and to keep this house blighted. The sooner we get him out of there, the sooner the city can clean it up, demolish it, and try to sell it to somebody.
But I understand you're gonna have a link for 440,000.
But the bank will,
400.
that's what we will do. We can do a short sale.
But we don't know how much the property. We don't have an appraisal to see how
That
much the
bank will
property worth
accept,
right
the bank
now.
will accept what the property's worth.
Okay.
If the property's worth 200, the bank will accept whatever's available. they have no choice. Otherwise, they will foreclose us out. I don't think they want to do that. But we've got to get rid of this owner, or we're going to be sitting here with a piece of property.
When we get it, what we're gonna do with it?
Hopefully, hopefully, I'm
You
hoping.
say hopefully. That's the same way you,
Okay, we're
you
gonna
are-
be the
we've been
owner of
asking for
property.
great money, and we say hopefully we can get
We can turn
400,000.
it into a park. Let the bank foreclose us out. But we've got to get rid of this owner.
We're gonna
Or
pay
we're-
the
or we're gonna have
440,000 lien.
Or what we have is equivalent of a squatter in this property who does not care, will never pay us our liens, will continue to put bad people in there. And
But
the
I
house,
understand
the
that,
house
sir.
is a total blight. It's a
And-
total mess.
And city manager, do you know how we're gonna deal with the $440,000 mortgage
What
on the
mortgage?
property?
We have a mortgage too.
The property has a mortgage.
We don't have to pay that if we foreclose.
What you, if the bank,
Well,
Regine,
the
if that's
bank
not
could,
correct-
the bank could foreclose if you don't pay. So you're gonna take it subject to the mortgage, right?
okay.
So
What does that mean? Take it subject to the mortgage.
meaning
What
that
does that mean in
you're,
English?
when you own the property, it will have the mortgages. The mortgages run with the land, right? So the mortgages don't go away.
So you
Okay.
you will acquire the mortgage that come with the
Correct.
house.
Yeah.
If the
What,
mortgage
what
is
the
400
councilwoman is suggesting is that you don't have to, I mean,
you
you
don't
don't
have
have
to
to
do
pay the mortgages, and the bank can elect to foreclose, or you can try to work out some sort of deal with the bank and short sell it, or get a lower payoff.
One thing that I agree, may I? Is
Mhm.
that okay? One thing that I totally agree with the councilwoman, we do have too many of those houses in the city. And as a matter of fact, right in the center of my district, which is by the Burger King, which you know, and the chief knows about it, and Regine knows about it, that this is just one of those houses where we have multiple people, not families, like young people, 8, 9 of them, go and live there for a couple of days or weeks. Then they have to call the police. Police come and evict them. Then they have to go back again. Now I think
Set
that
me
we
on
have.
them. Set me on them.
So no. So now, and I agree with you. We have a lot of those houses in the city that the city we need to deal with them. So, and I'm not fighting the idea for the city to deal with those foreclosed homes that the bank is not taking responsibility. So it is a problem. It's a problem for me, and I'm sure it's a problem for all of us in the city. But that's not what we're discussing. What I understand is, what I'm not understanding is the process of how the city is going to go about doing it. What I'm hearing is that when I look through the resolution, this house does not belong to an individual. It belongs to an entity, an
Correct.
LLC. Is
It's
that
an
what it is?
LLC, correct.
Okay. The bank, and from the history of this home, it has been transferred from entity to entity. Actually, this house right now belongs to an investor.
Correct.
So we have an investor on our city has a home that actually accumulated a lien for over $100,000. So we're not sure what to do with it. What this body is sort of asking the staff to do is to go foreclose in the house. From what I understand is that, okay, you foreclose for it because that they owed you $104,000 lien, but yet again, this investor still owed the bank $400,000, around that. So once you foreclose in the home for your lien, which is $104, when you take it, you still take the mortgage that's come with the house. So once the city has that $400,000, I understand that much, that we probably go in litigation and fight it, try not to make payment, blah, 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 what regular people do. So right now, the city will end up in court fighting with the bank for mortgages. So how many of those houses that the city willing to go? Because I have a list.
Okay. Thank you very much. Before I say anything, Ms. Montgomery,
Yeah, I'd like to just address it a little bit. Condominiums foreclose for maintenance. even though there's a mortgage on the property, they go ahead and they foreclose for their maintenance. They don't pay the bank any payments. And then the bank eventually forecloses and the condominium gets their maintenance fees. We would get our 100 and some thousand when the bank forecloses because that lien still stays there.
So we're not foreclosed, the bank is foreclosed.
No, we are going to foreclose to get the property. So
what she's saying is that the city would foreclose, the city would not pay the mortgage, and then the bank would, because then the city would own it, and then the bank would foreclose against the city for its liens, its mortgages, is what she's saying.
and we get our money
How are we gonna get it?
from the bank. It's part of the transaction. We may not get the 104,000, but we'll get a good portion
get
of it.
something.
Just like the condominiums get their maintenance fees. They have put a lien against it.
Councilwoman,
So-
I don't want to vote against it. Can we continue this item for January, put in the...
No,
There's no
no,
time
let's
to
get to-
continue
let's
with
get to
it.
the
There's no
bottom of
time
it
to
tonight,
continue this.
because this
This has been going on for years.
I
For
would like to
15
hear
years.
from Mrs. Flynn, because Mrs. Flynn,
Go
I
ahead.
believe you
Thank you.
defended the foreclosure last year.
Before Mrs. Glenn, I have one question.
Sure.
How come the HOA has never, acted in this?
It's not a mandatory HOA,
No?
and we don't have any rights to foreclose.
Oh, okay,
There's
you don't have any rights to
no
foreclose.
owners.
Go ahead, Ms. Blaine.
Esther Blinn, 1990 Northeast 118th Road. The property, the mortgage is in the name of two individuals who no longer reside in North Miami. They reside in New York. The property itself was in the name of a house of worship as a parsonage, and one of the principals of the house of worship transferred the property, quitclaimed the property to an LLC that at the time that that was done was not an LLC. So there's several title issues involved in this case. To clarify, the condominium law is quite different from single-family homes, and the condominium law says that yes, the condominium associations can foreclose for their maintenance, but the bank's mortgage takes priority, and they only get a 1/12 or 1 month worth of maintenance. They can collect rent in the interim. They can do all sorts of things to try and make up for their deficits. But this particular situation has a whole host of legal issues involved in it. One of the things that should be done, according to what I've heard about the new quote-unquote owner, is we need to come down heavily on the new quote-unquote owner to pay up and take vigorous action to evict the undesirables from the property. He apparently makes a fortune on the rentals that he charges the undesirable individuals. So I think before you go into taking over ownership of the property, you need to get rid of
The tenants,
people.
the tenants are gone. We have put enough pressure on him.
Okay,
But
well
this
then in
individual-
that case,
this
then you
individual
need to
is
have
not
him
gonna
pay the lien.
He is not going to pay the lien. He has paid $10,000. He will never pay these liens.
Well, he can correct the violations, and
not
you
going to
can
do that.
reduce
He's had
the
a year
lien
to do
if he
that.
if he doesn't do all these.
He's had,
There's no reason that the city should be helpless and act helpless. There are things you can do to the guy.
and we've done all of those. If I might, Mr. Mayor, this has gone on since Michael got elected. It's been 13 years going on that the poor neighbors have had to look at mold on the walls, an overgrown yard, a pool that is black, and people who live in the house who have absolutely no intention of cleaning it up. One of the individuals called it a religious destination, a religious location, so he could get away with not having to make any improvements. The current
Or paying taxes.
the current individual who owns it has, our officers have been to his office. Larry Jariga, Larry Jariga has walked into the guy's office and said,
That person.
I don't remember the name. I don't remember the name of the individual, but the person who runs that house as a rental property, Larry, has gone there to talk some sense into them, and it's done no good. These people, and if Councilwoman has a list of 20, bring them next meeting, let's go get them. It's time that North Miami stopped accepting this type of condition from residents and homeowners and took our city back and cleaned it up. So please, guys, let's do this and let's move on and let's send a message.
Okay.
What we are,
Yeah.
and
Through
can
the
I say
council.
something? What we are doing, we're not discussing that we need to tear down those junk property. We're talking about
We buying to
$440,000. That's what we're talking about.
Before,
They said we don't need to pay.
yeah,
Most
if
individual
they-
property owners, whether they're
Yeah.
corporations or not, when you seek to foreclose on the liens, they pay.
This is not gonna pay, Mrs.
Well,
Blank.
you don't know that
I
till you
do,
foreclose
because the
on the
property
lien.
is not worth it.
Okay,
He is
okay.
in there for nothing.
Okay,
If
now
we're
we
not going
pass.
to pay
he
the money,
does-
it's
Guys,
fine with me.
If-
We are losing focus. Let's put some order in this meeting here.
okay, through the mayor, we just looked up through the city attorney. On the Miami-Dade County website, the assessed value is $279,000.
Okay.
The
And then he
market,
owes.
279.
that's correct.
You owe 4,000.
The market value is $282,000. The total liens on the property is $440,000. So you just requested the pricing. This is the Miami-Dade County website, and the price we just pulled
You
up.
cannot go by that for an
I'm
appraisal.
just giving you the market value from the Miami-Dade County
Yeah,
website.
So usually that says 20%.
But we do not. No, we do know that the property is worth less than what he actually owes. So therefore, nobody's going to be making any payment on the property that is worth less.
That's the
than-
point I was trying to get at.
Okay.
Really?
So we have Mr. Preventel who wants to make
Yeah, if I may,
1 minute and 45 seconds.
I greatly appreciate that the council is concerned about the liability, the exposure to the city. But I think that might be a little bit inflated to think that it's the 440. I don't believe that's the case. I think the reality is that these people will not be paying. The city will not be collecting. The bank will not be collecting from this situation. It will only keep rolling over and increasing, and therefore everybody gets deeper in the situation. I think that's sort of realistically said. In addition to that, to say that the property is worth zero, it certainly is not. Whether it is this appraised value or the market value, it's not where a burden of possibly 440 is taken on, and there's zero collateral there. There is certainly collateral there to support this. Third, I think, I would hope by now, I would hope a conversation has been taking place with the banks that they understand this is not just a financial matter. This is a security matter. This is, they have a liability themselves with these tenants, the way this is being operated, that it's not just a simple, good-natured, very responsible people that are just in a bad situation. That's not the case. This is a dangerous situation that needs to be rectified. Hopefully that conversation has taken place with the bank so that they are on the same page with the city so that the best results will come from this rather than a combative result. So I hope that's all considered. And the bottom line is that at the worst case scenario, let's say there is a differential between taking it on and somehow the bank is crazy enough to say we're going to foreclose on the city. If there is an exposure there, that exposure is probably very minimal, very manageable in respect to the quality of this neighborhood and the detriment that it causes to this neighborhood. There's no, it's easily measured and easily accountable. So I appreciate you considering the passage of this. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Perhaps another alternative would be to take it before the Unsafe Structures Board and seek a demolition of the property. That would go through the Miami-Dade County Unsafe Structures Board. The building official would have to
Are you guys
determine.
listening? Oh, hold on.
Yes, yes. Okay, that's
No,
fine.
so,
Yeah,
that's
but
her item.
you heard what she said. We need to move on. It's 9:25.
Well, if she doesn't heard what the suggestion is, we won't be able to vote on it.
She heard it. She
Really?
could talk and listen at the same time.
Mayor, for the record, we already have a motion and a second. The motion
we
was
don't-
made by
we don't-
Councilman Galvin and seconded by Councilwoman Keys.
We
Why-
haven't
what's the
finished
motion?
yet. She said, the city attorney said something and
Yeah.
Councilwoman Keys haven't
I was just making a suggestion that another alternative would be to take it to before the Unsafe Structures Board. That would be a building official.
I say we do both. I think
can-
we should go forward for $1,000, the way we spend money up here. to spend $1,000 to get this action started. If we are able to do the unsafe structure board, so be it. But we still have to take ownership of the property. Otherwise, this unsafe structure only means we get to tear it down.
Correct.
It doesn't mean we get to own it and sell it.
Well,
and do something
it'll
else.
be demolished. You'll just
I
have
mean, we can
a
always
vacant
drop
lot.
our foreclosure. For $1,000, we get it started. We have standing to speak to the bank, talk to them, let them know we need business. Let the courts know for the unsafe structure, hey, we're about to own it. We're agreeing to demolish it. We can do both at the same time, concurrently.
Absolutely.
Okay. Did you say we have a motion?
Yes, Mayor. We have a motion made by Councilman Garvin, and it was seconded by Councilwoman Keys. Would you like a roll call vote?
What is the motion?
The motion is to approve tab L.
With the amendment, I will bring my list.
The motion
Bring
that I have.
bring every list, every
Yeah.
meeting. If we finally decide we want to
I
kick some
agree.
tail and take some names in this city, it would be high time.
I
Okay.
agree.
So the motion was made with the amendment to bring the list, list of names.
She joked.
We
My
don't
motion-
need that.
my
We don't
motion
need
to
that.
is-
No,
is-
just motion,
Tab
just
K.
the way
Motion
it
to
is.
approve
Okay.
tab K.
So the motion stands as it was made by Councilman Galvin. It was seconded by Councilwoman Keys. Would you like a
Oh,
roll?
sorry, it's tab L. It's tab L. Motion to approve tab L.
And I second that.
Anyone
But
wishes
Councilman
to?
Galvin, we're not gonna pay the mortgage, the loan.
I can tell you what'll happen. If we do get this house, we'll be able to turn around and sell it real quick because somebody will come in and buy it.
Okay.
Roll call, please. Roll call.
Roll call vote.
Let's move on, guys.
Councilman Galvin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilwoman Keys, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Joseph, how do you vote?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Benjamin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilwoman Steril, how do you vote? Item passes 4-0.
4-0.
I'm sorry, 4-1.
So you are zero.
Sorry, Councilwoman Steril. Item passes 4-1. Tab M. Proposed resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, approving and authorizing new recreation programs, activities, and rental fees for the Parks and Recreation Department for fiscal year 2014 through 2015, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes. That's tab M.
The motion, we need the motion. Nobody's moving? Okay. Before we do public hearing? Public hearing is now open. Public hearing is now closed. Nobody's gonna move to accept it?
Can we
I'll
have an
make a motion.
explanation
This is very simple.
what it is exactly?
Just to increase the fees, based on inflation, the fees for the parks and recreation.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Derek Corker, Parks and Recreation Manager, City of North Miami. This tab is to, yes, increase fees for our annual fee schedule. We have done a comparison study of neighborhood cities that surround us, and we are still one of the lowest cities in the surrounding area with our fees. So it is just to increase our fees slightly from last year.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve with one change.
Go ahead.
I'd suggest that the fitness instructor permit for 6 months be raised from $100 to $1,000. Fitness instructors can easily make way more than $100 in 6 months. And essentially what I fear that we would do is allow our public parks to be used for private gain. I could pay $100 to be able to operate at Cagney Park and then charge $20 per student per session for fitness programming and swamp $100 in my very first time out there, and everything after that is gravy. If we're gonna let people use our facilities, not only I hope we're addressing somehow insurance and liability in there,
Yes,
but
sure.
that number needs to be significantly more, and then we need to assess how much money that individual is making as best as
There.
possible, because if they pay $1,000 and then they make $50,000, then we need to come back and raise that to like $25,000. You follow what I'm saying? But
No, I follow.
at least to get the conversation going and see where it goes, I would suggest just amending that $100 up to $1,000.
Wow. So we take into consideration how much they actually charging those participants? Because I know that there was a time the city of North Miami was all about our citizens to actually participate in park activities, including fitness. And I know that when the Joe Citizen Center had opened, it was free at a certain time. So I'm not sure how much that they're charging. So we have to understand once we raise those fees, the participant fees will be raised as well. So I don't know if it's something that we want to do.
Well, I think the amendment Councilman Galvin is requesting is actually to prevent people from conducting, or private instructors from using our public facilities to conduct private lessons. I believe.
I thought we just
Yeah, but
voted against that.
we did, but I think this is something. Go ahead.
The reason I think he's suggesting the $1,000 is to prevent from what was presented at the last few council meetings, where private entities were coming in to use our facilities or public facilities and charging fees from individuals. So by putting this, I think the suggestion or the amendment that was made is to prevent stuff like this from happening.
Inside and outside.
That's correct.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Am I correct?
I thought that a month or so ago, we went through this and did not pass it because we did not want to allow fitness instructors, give them the permit in parks. This now is in here, which seems to mean that we're giving we're actually allowing fitness instructors to come in our parks. And the other problem I have with this is all of a sudden there's $100, which we've already voted and discussed twice we're not going to do. But if we put this fee under special programs, to me, it's ratifying and saying that the city is having a program of personal fitness instructors. I don't think that, unless we are hiring the fitness instructor and he's getting a permit, are we, Mr. Corker, are we hiring these people to come into our facilities?
Currently, we do hire our own fitness instructors, but as the manager stated, this is for private fitness instructors.
So we've already discussed this and said we didn't want this, and now it's back in here at $100.
Well, you had it was at $50 initially. You asked to have it raised to $100 at the last meeting.
I voted against it altogether, so I don't remember. Did we vote on this? Did we finally vote on this? I don't think it passed.
It didn't pass.
No.
And now it's being put back in there, so I'm not happy that it just got slid back in here at $100.
So I'll remove my motion for the $100 and just suggest that we approve this chart and eliminate any allowance for private personal fitness instruction on city property.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Mr. Clerk?
Motion was made by Councilman Galvin with this amendment. Galvin's amendment is to eliminate private fitness instructors on or in city parks. And that motion with the amendment was seconded by Councilwoman Keys. Anyone wishes to record a no? Items approved with the amendment at a 5-0 vote, or with a 5-0 vote. Tab N. This is a ordinance. Proposed ordinance. I'm sorry. Waiting for my iPad to load up.
Here it is.
Yeah, you want mine?
Hard copy.
Technology. An ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, amending chapter 29 of the city of North Miami Code of Ordinances entitled Land Development Regulations by amending Article 3, Division 4, entitled Conditional Uses at Section 3-409 entitled Appeals and Section 3-410 entitled Changes to Conditional Use Approvals to further clarify conditional use requirements for master plan development, providing for conflicts, severability, codification, and an effective date.
Do we
Those
have
tab in.
copies of these sections? 3-409, 3-410? Do we have
I'm
them?
sorry, did you say 3409 and
And
410?
3410.
Yes, they should be in your packet.
Where should it be?
It should be tab. What's the tab?
It's tab N.
N as in Nancy.
N as in Nancy.
Okay. Well, public hearing is open.
Yes, William Prevotel, 11950 North Bay Shore Drive. This came before the Planning Commission, and even though it was passed by the Planning Commission, the point was raised that we have had some complications with the master plan developments, particularly during the course of the last couple of years. And certainly we do want to expedite that which is good, that which is reliable, that we can rely on and be comfortable with. However, if we go too administratively, the possibility of it going before the Planning Commission, the possibility of it going before the City Council, and most importantly, the possibility of our public being able to voice their concerns over certain changes is taken out of the equation. And it is of great concern that measures be so expedited when there's been a history that has been so concerning. So I appreciate your consideration on reevaluating this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Public hearing is still open.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Eileen Mehta. I'm an
Good
attorney
evening.
with the law firm of Bills and Sundberg. My address is 1450 Brickell Avenue, and I am here representing Olita Partners. You have before you a staff recommendation, and the recommendation is that you approve the ordinance in the form that it has been presented to you. We ask that you support your staff recommendation. We believe that this simply clarifies a provision of the appellate law as recognized in the Florida Rules of Appellate Procedure. It adds some clarity to the process. It provides for the ability to specify in greater detail certain conditions which are minor versus substantial. So we're very much in support of your staff recommendation. I acknowledge that a member of the Planning Commission, Mr. Prevotel, has made a presentation to you. I do want to mention that he was the one dissenting vote on the Planning Commission. That does not represent the view of the majority of the Planning Commission. And we are here to answer any questions that you may have and to reiterate our support for your staff recommendation.
Thank you very much.
Kenneth Teach, I'm a member of the Planning Commission. It was a 4-1 vote. You know, what we're doing, in the long run, look, whether I agreed with the initial project or I disagreed, whether I agreed with the sale of the land or I disagreed, the project is the here and now. It's here with us. Now, we can stymie this, we can dance around, we can throw up all kinds of obstructions and not get anything done. Mr. Tillman came up before the Planning Commission, and he specified, yes, he wants to build high-end condos. It's time we move the project forward. I might not particularly care for the way the plan is laid out. But you know what? That's my opinion. The developer has his opinion, and he's the one that's developing the land. This is the man that's in business. The council had the wisdom over the last couple of years to sell them the land or to lease them the land and to bring this project to where it's at today. So let's move on with this. Besides, we're sending out a message to other developers. We have a reputation here in North Miami to giving developers a hard time. You know, folks, let's look around the county. There's cranes all over the place. There's cranes over in Bay Harbor Island, Miami Beach, North Miami Beach. I want to see development here. Folks, we're going to be doing a land use ordinance. It's going to come up shortly, our 7-year review. Let me tell you, we had an expression when I was in the police department that this was the town that time forgot. It's time we develop this town. I'd rather have a wealthy city with a good tax base helping poor people than a poor city helping nobody. And you know what? The only way we're going to get a wealthy city is by developing it, by going high, by building beautiful projects, bringing in people with disposable income, and creating decent jobs for our people. That's why I support this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The public hearing is now closed. And council, any comments, discussions?
No, I think this ordinance is not just for Biscayne Landing, it is for all other development in the city, and it really just deals with minor revisions. And no, I'm in favor of it. I think it's okay.
Anybody else?
As you can see, we're tired.
This is pretty much it. The only amendment that I wanted to have made in this is to remove the part where it says within a period of 1 year.
Mr. Mayor, you're referring to section 3-410
yeah.
2, subsection 2, the last 6 words within a period of 1 year. Is that correct?
Yeah. Because what is this doing is having them come before us every single time. I mean, it's limiting them to only 1 change per year, so that will slow the process even more. So to prevent that from happening, we can just open it as long as they come before us, and we are the council. We are the ones to make the decisions anyway.
Right.
So
you're striking that out?
yes, that's my motion.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Councilman, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, that was an amendment to the motion.
We have a motion made by Mayor Mayor Smith. In this motion, it comes with an amendment, and that's to remove, in quotes, within a period of 1 year, to remove that language from the ordinance. So that is his motion with that amendment. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion was seconded by Councilman Galvin with said amendment that was read into the record. Mayor, you ready for roll call vote?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, well, you can get him after. You'll get him after.
Yeah. Mayor Joseph,
Yes.
Councilman Galvin,
Yes.
Councilwoman Steril,
Yes.
Councilwoman Keys.
Yes.
Okay, at this moment, item passes 4-0, but pursuant to our resolution, I will have to record Vice Mayor BNMA's vote when he returns to the dais. Tab, the motion was made by Mayor Smith and seconded by Councilman Galvin. Tab O, discussion regarding voting on the 6-month Vice Mayor appointment.
Well,
We don't need public hearing for that.
no, at the last council meeting, I think you requested, are you looking to the minutes at November 25th city council meeting? I was requested to put a discussion item pertaining to the vice mayor's position and the rotation, the 6 months rotation.
We normally switch it every 6 months.
That's what the law, that's what the resolution requires. You have to rotate.
So
I'll motion that the vice mayor title for the next 6 months be given to Councilwoman Keys, since she's never been vice mayor
I
before.
second it.
Okay.
So there's a motion.
Do we have to wait for the
No,
last
just-
councilman before we vote?
No,
Okay.
Motion was made by Councilman Galvin, seconded by Councilwoman Keys, and that motion was made to elect Councilwoman Keys as North Miami's vice mayor for the next 6 months, to elect Councilwoman Keys.
It was seconded by Councilwoman Sterl,
It was seconded by Councilman. Yes.
not Keys.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman. So motion was made by Councilman Galvin, seconded by Councilwoman
Wake up,
Steril,
Michael.
and that's to elect Councilwoman Keys as North Miami's vice mayor for the next 6 months. Anyone wishes to record a no? Again, item passes 4-0. However, I
No,
have to,
he voted yes, 5-0.
now I have to make sure it's on record. Okay, anyone wishes to record a no? Item passes 5-0.
Can I make a comment? Thank you, everybody, for your.
We didn't ask
You're
you
welcome.
if you accepted.
I accept. Thank you. Look out. No. How do we go back to the rotation? I'm not sure why we had this election
Because
process.
we were going off the charter or by rotating, that's not what the charter says. The charter says we're supposed to elect each other. We're doing fine so far.
Okay. I just think it's fair. It's nice to just do a rotation, not put anybody on the spot, but Just bringing it up.
Mayor, may I revisit tab N?
And
Yeah, to
go ahead,
record. Vice Mayor at the time, Vice Mayor Bieneme, we had a motion made by Mayor Smith, and his motion was to approve tab N with the following amendment: to approve tab N, however, to remove the language within a period of 1 year from the ordinance. That motion to approve with amendment was seconded by Councilman Galvin. How do you wish to vote, Vice Mayor?
It was voted 5-4-0. How do you vote?
You said 5-0 already.
That's what she said. I didn't say it, Mayor.
I say yes.
Okay, so item passes 5-0.
Tab P.
Tab P, presentation and discussion regarding irrigation rate review.
Good evening, Arthur Sori, Budget Director. This evening I'll be doing a brief review of the findings and next steps regarding the irrigation rate review for the second water meters throughout the city. A little background, we approximately have about 22,000, a little over 22,000 water customers throughout the city. And this evening, we're going to be speaking about 612 individuals who do have second water meters. That's what we're speaking on. Basically, we're going to go over the background and objectives of the water rate review study. We'll go over the study findings, financial impact to customers and the utilities, and then we'll go through brief questions. The background. Staff was basically commissioned by this mayor and council to request the irrigation rate review during the FY 13-14 budget. We did budget money for a rate review for the second meters, and we, at that point, hired a consultant to review the second meter rates. Right now, the meter charge is a base charge, and then the additional cost is billed at a volumetric rate. The objectives of this were to calculate irrigation revenues underneath the existing rates, look at a gap analysis, and then actually come up with some scenarios if the rate was reduced. The findings of the study basically outline that if we are, the consultants did not want to make a recommendation of us amending the actual rates. So they did, say it needs to be a policy decision made by this board if we want to amend the rates at all. And also the other finding was any reduction to the fixed rate or the base rate would have an impact on revenues now and in the future. This slide here basically goes over and identifies the customers and lets you know what kind of meters are out there. We have 101 3/4 inch meters. The major one is the 1 inch meters. We have 405, 1.5 54, 2 inch 52, for a total, as I said, of 612 irrigation meters that we do have within the city. Second irrigation meters. We basically, the consultants gave us a price breakdown of what 3 scenarios. We do have a 25% reduction scenario. We have a 50% reduction scenario and a 75% reduction scenario. Again, with the majority of the customers being somewhere in that 1 inch line. It gives the costs. Later on, I'll get into the thing, but this is an annual slide. I just went back. This is the annual slide. This is what a customer will pay. So somebody with the 1 inch meter, their annual cost is $278. These are the annual costs. The next slide will break it down for the quarterly, what they actually see on their quarterly bill. This is the actual quarterly customer expense on the base charge. The base charge for the 1 inch meters, the existing bill is $69. $69.54. If we went with the 25% reduction, we'll be down to $52.16. 50% will be $34.77. 75% reduction is $17.39. And again, these are quarterly bills. This is what people do see on their quarterly bill. The financial impact. If we did reduce by 25%, it would basically be a negative impact to our revenues of about $63,000. The 50% would be basically about $126,000, and the 75 basically at $183,000. Why I do say it is a negative impact, this number does not, we didn't look at, well, the consultants didn't look at increasing the volumetric rate at all. This is just to lower the base charge rate. So these are how we will be affected. And basically that was just the highlights of the findings of the study. What I would like to say is anything we do would have an effect, and we will have to make decisions if we do choose to reduce this base rate. But I'll turn it over to the board now, and to Councilwoman Keys, who did want to have discussion on it. I'll turn it over at this point for the discussion to begin.
Thank you. Public hearing is now open.
Scott Fink, 12903 Banyan Road. Been a resident, me, my wife, and 3 children, North Miami, over 15 years. About 10 years ago, or so, I made the investment to purchase an irrigation meter. And why would I purchase an irrigation meter? Well, I had to get a permit. A backflow preventer at the time was like $1,500. A plumber, cut up my driveway, do all the construction to install the meter. That with the idea that the city would offer an irrigation meter that would reduce the cost of water, okay, that we use for our plants, irrigation, and so on. So we made that investment as a family to go that route for in future that we knew that we'd be here in North Miami and it would be a cost savings to our family. About 2 years ago, looks like about towards the end of 2012, I was out of work and I noticed that my water bill was going crazy. So I called the city and the utility department. I spoke to them a number of times. They helped me understand that the water rates had increased drastically, and that at the time I spoke to the person that they explained to me that I'd be better off not having an irrigation meter, that I would use my standard meter. Well, with that in mind, I decided, well, I'm out of work. I got time. I cut up my driveway, replumbed it, had the city come out and remove it. Well, when I got my water bill again, that wasn't the case. So I called up. We had this big go around. The city had to come out, help me understand what was going on. And I'm in favor of 100% reduction to the actual water rate, which is 50% in the report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Abe Rudman, 1930 Northeast 119th Road. I'm on the board of the San Souci Homeowners Association, and I represent a large number of homeowners, in many cases who are elderly or on fixed incomes, and have seen their water bills skyrocket. What we saw in the charts was the effect of the reduction of the rate from this year into maybe next year. But what's missing is the skyrocketing in the rates from 2011 to 2012 to 2013 to where we are today. And what I am asking for is not even a reduction. It's just a rational, reasonable way to charge people for an essential part of life. Everybody has to have water. And when I compare the water rates in our city compared to neighboring cities, our rates are much higher than neighboring cities. We formed a commission to study this, and we were shocked at how high our rates of water we pay here in the city. And so I am asking for a 100% adjustment to the access charge and the base rate for the irrigation meter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Esther Blinn, 1990 Northeast 118th Road. I'm the Vice President of the San Souci Homeowners Association for External Affairs, and this has been an issue for years. The mayor, our mayor now lives in our district and knows personally, I'm sure, because of his campaigning, the impact. We were enticed. I think our family actually was the last second water meter installed, and that we were promised that we would be charged on usage. Nobody told us that we'd get double access fee, which is irrational, unfair, and unjust because we cannot use wells because of our geographical location. So I too am asking on behalf of not just the San Souci homeowners, but the citizens to reduce by 100% the access fee, because we already pay an access fee on our primary water bill, and there's no rational basis. It's totally unfair and unjust. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bland.
Hello, my name's Jeff Rudman, 13290 Arch Creek Terrace. I live in Keystone Point. Family, my wife and 3 children. And when we received the bill a couple years back and we saw this increase in the water, I was shocked. I mean, frankly, thought it was extremely grossly unfair. And I support everybody who's come up to speak before you, before this panel. And I also agree that please have some sympathy in terms of helping us out and making this fair for everyone. Okay, it is a basic fundamental need for all of us, and I'm also requesting 100% reduction. Thank you.
Thank you. Public hearing still open?
Aleem, did somebody turn the air off up here?
It's
getting hot up here.
They did 30 minutes ago.
Yeah,
Annie Montgomery, 2082 Laurel Lane. I have 2 meters. When I built my home, I was advised to put in a meter for the irrigation, which I did. Right now, I am going to tell everybody to take the meter out, because that's probably what I'm going to do if we don't get the base rate, if it doesn't disappear. I used 5,000 gallons of water on my sprinklers this past 3 months, and my bill was $100 for just the irrigation. So, and we get 2 separate bills also. So I think just eliminate the base rate, and I think everybody will be happy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kenneth Each. I have 3 properties on Emerald Drive. I live in one. And many years ago, I put a sprinkler meter in because I have a lot of landscaping, and I do these. These are 3 quadruplexes. And I felt that it was my obligation to landscape my property for the benefit of the beautification of the city, my own enjoyment, the tenants that live there, their enjoyment. But most of all, it was a quality of life issue. And when I put the sprinkler meter in, or the second meter in, as we call it, I was to save money and not pay the sewer service charge and all the other charges that go with the actual water meter. Well, lo and behold, when we put the space rate in, my bill just jumped. And, you know, you say, well, you're a property owner, you can pass it on to the tenants. Well, they're not wealthy people, otherwise they would own their own homes. You know, they're living in my apartments. And
And it's absolutely outrageous. I mean, I was paying like $90 more for every 3 months, you know. And the other thing that came in was when we said, well, we're going to have private sanitation come in and take it from the city, and your rate is going to go down. Well, folks, my rate didn't go down because I'm paying for multifamily on my water bill. I'm paying all kinds of extras for a 4-unit apartment building, which I have 3 of them. And it's cheaper for me actually to eliminate that second meter and run my irrigation system off of the base meters that I have. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. This is not rational. I can take the meter, shut it down, and run an irrigation system and pay the sewer service charge and everything else on my base meter. It's lopsided. You know, I mentioned this before. William Jennings Bryan said, when the law and common sense collide, let's always hope that common sense prevails. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The public hearing is now closed. When I was campaigning, I remember talking to some residents about the second meter issue, and I did promise that I would try my best along with the other members of the council to see how we can come with a solution to this. But oftentimes when you are faced with a problem, one should not just look at the problem, you should also look at the source of the problem. So the question to be asked now is, how did we get here? You didn't always have a second meter, right? And we find ourselves where we have to solve this because residents apparently are being frustrated because of the money you have to get out of your pocket so often just for the second meter. And the other questions, the other question to ask, that would be to Mr. Budget here. How much would that cost the city? The first year, second year, 3 years? I mean, are we going to, well, before I even go further, how much would that cost us?
If we go with I guess the recommendation from everybody who came up to 100%, you're talking about $252,000 per year. But after the 252, the money that's built in for the second meter for all of our irrigation, well, all of the water rates is to provide the service, of course, but also to maintain the system, to maintain the utility, to do capital projects, to do everything. If you turn around and lower this cost now, the water rate study that was done in 2012, basically we're going to be cutting out some capital project money in the amount of $252,000 per year. So in the second year now, once you take out another 252, now we're at $500,000. Year 3, you're at 750. Year 4, you're at $1 million. I mean, we can reduce the rate if that's the consensus of this board, but I would urge that we come up with the plan. If we do reduce the rate, something's going to be need to put in place to see how we're going to identify making up this shortfall, whether it's cutting the budget of the utility fund, or if we're going to go back and look at the volumetric rate and smooth the cost over completely over the entire utility and over all the residents. So again, it's a policy decision for the board to make what we want to do.
Council members?
Yes, to answer your question, Mayor, a lot of these people have had these water sewer second irrigation meters for over 20 years, and everybody was charged on a different basis. In 2012, a rate study was done. I believe it was manipulated. I think back then the council wanted, I mean, to be blunt, I think the council wanted to lower the water bill for a lot of people, and one of the ways was to take a big chunk of the water expense and put it onto the second irrigation homeowners. And what that did essentially, a $250,000 savings, essentially saved, I think, the 22,000 water customers approximately less than $1 a month. But now 600 people with irrigation meters are bearing that expense. I know Councilman Galvin didn't vote for that rate study, And further, the rate study in 2012 didn't go into effect for almost 6 months. So people did not know that there was a rate increase for about almost a year afterwards, when the bills came out in February of 2013, at which time it was too late for that. You'll notice even this past year in our first bill that came out in November, there's a big yellow slip that came out in everybody's mail, and it said, your water rate's going up. That was from that 2012 water study. That was another manipulation to postpone the increase of the water, so nobody really saw that back in 2012, the water rates were raised back then, but you weren't going to see it until just now. That being said, I think there's an unfair burden. The people who have second water meters are mostly in the eastern portion of the city. They have saltwater intrusion. They do not have the ability to have a well in their yard like in the western part of the city. People in the western part of the city, they want to irrigate their property. They can get a well. They can get their water for free. You can't do that in Keystone and San Souci, where most of these wells are, because you dig down 5 feet, you get salt water. You can't irrigate your plants, your vegetables, your grass with salt water, and you can't clean your car with salt water. So there is a hardship here for these people. They have no choice but to have a second meter. If they don't have a second meter, they're paying sewer charges on the water. The water for irrigation is not going in the sewer. It's going right back into the ground. But before, if they don't have a second water meter, they're also paying a sewer charge on that. And we're not having an impact. This is also a benefit for the city, in my estimation, because these second water meters are not considered an impact for sewer fees. So my recommendation, we've been working on this. I've been working on this for 2 years. I requested a budget. We were told we could not have any kind of reduction without a rate study. Not this year, but the year before, we put aside money for a rate study. Councilman Galvin's been working on this simultaneously on his own, doing different things, but pushing every month. Have we got the rate study? It's being done. It's being ordered. Find out it's not been done. We have finally got our rate study. It's been 2 years since the people with second irrigation meters have been charged this charge on a second meter, a base rate charge that is just really large. It's based on the size of the meter, and I believe it's unfair. I've done my best to promise that I would help alleviate this, and I'm recommending this evening that we eliminate the entire base charge. I know money has been set aside in the budget for this, because I requested that also, that we're going to be addressing this. We need to set money aside, so money has been set aside. So I'm going to recommend and make a motion that we eliminate the second base charge altogether.
You may be seated, Mr. Director, unless you have a remark to make. No?
I also say I'm very sorry to all these citizens. The room was pretty packed earlier. I see a lot of people who did come to speak on it, just didn't have the fortitude to stay awake and stay here for the whole meeting. So a lot of people have left that were here to speak on the water meter.
I'll second the councilwoman's motion and sort of jump in and say this. In 2012, when we implemented the new water rates, most residents, because we went to a tiered usage system,
tiered rate structure.
Most residents, including me, got a rate reduction. But we didn't take in less money with that rate reduction. We just transferred the responsibility for paying to those with the second water meters. So it wasn't that we lowered rates and took in less money. We still took in the same, if not more money than the year before. But when everybody like me, who's just a regular single family guy with a 1 water meter, when we got our rate reduction, the costs were then transferred to those with the second water meters. Most of those people, Annie didn't just build her home in Keystone Point. Annie Montgomery is a person who mentioned that she's one of these people. In Keystone and San Souci, because they're so close to the water table, they can't put in a well for a well meter to run their sprinklers with. So they have to install the second water meter. As a result, now all of these folks through no doing of their own, saw their rates double and triple, and if you go to the commercial people, quadruple. We're lucky that businesses haven't gone out of business left and right in this city because they're paying quadruple what they were paying 2 years ago for their water rates. It's not that we took in less money, we just transferred to other people with the second meter the costs of doing business in North Miami. We've set aside money in this year's budget to do this. Let's do it. We've got money coming soon from Biscayne Landing. They're about to slap down a $17 or $20 million check, whatever that was. Let's not pretend that we can't find ways to make this happen in years 2 and 3. Earlier in tonight's discussion, we were willing to blindly vote in favor of an amphitheater and figure out where the costs came from later. We owe it to the residents of this city to do that same thing now. If we're worried that we won't know how to figure it out, by golly, you guys are smart. We'll figure it out, and when the time comes, we'll be able to pay the bills and not ask our regular homeowners to have to bear the burden. So I second the councilwoman's motion.
Councilwoman Steele?
You are.
Through your presentation, I heard you say that how much money do we have aside?
Well, we kept money in the reserves for water and sewer for when this did come up. We have over $1 million set aside just in case. Well, not set aside. The money is for capital projects. We didn't allocate about $1 million just to wait and see because we knew this issue was coming. So the money's there for capital projects, but it's $1 million set aside to see what the findings or the outcome was going to be of the rate study.
And that's more than enough for the next 3 years, according to your projection.
Yeah, but that's not the only capital project that.
No, I
is
know, but
the
I'm just
city.
saying. I agree, but I'm just saying it's not that we don't have money to do this.
If I may, Councilman, through the manager, another thing to look at is there's the possibility that the cost now is $250,000. We don't know what the habits are going to be of the residents. Right now we say we have 612 people that have second meters. What happens if somebody's neighbor says, hey, there's no cost for the second meter now, and we have a run on second meters?
But that's, with due respect, if that had been the case, that would have been happening all of these many years prior to 2012. It didn't happen. It's not going to happen. Maybe 1 or 2 might do it, I guess. But if people didn't go crazy for a cheaper second meter in 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, 2000s, early 2010, they're not going to start doing it now.
Let's not jump the gun, Mr.
I think Scott mentioned about the business owners. Are they part of the saving that we're gonna just eliminate the base rate for the business owners as well? That's what it is?
If we eliminate the base rate, the city attorney would have to answer the question, but if we eliminate the base rate, I'm assuming it's going to have to be for everybody if we do the second meter.
No, as long as you have the second meter and you're eliminating the base rate, it's going to be for all the customers.
So I was under the impression if we do it for, as Councilwoman Keys mentioned, that was just for residents, and the $250,000 was only for residents. Now is it for everybody?
That's citywide. That's all the second meters we have.
Second meter on irrigation. Your second meter is considered an irrigation meter, which is only put in for irrigation, nothing else. So they are commercial and residential on that second meter.
I think that may constitute a problem in the future. Because we're talking about redevelopment, we're talking about Biscayne Landing, we're talking about a lot of possibility of having hotels, 6, 8-story buildings, which they will be having pools and other facilities that will use a lot of water. And we're talking about the dry cleaners, and that use a lot of water. And I don't know how many meters, most of them do have.
Well, as it is right now, the city has 22,000 first meter or base meters and over 641 irrigation meters in the system.
So I think, I just want to piggyback from the mayor. How would that affect the city if Biscayne Landing if it's coming full development?
Yes.
And then he decided to put a second meter, how would that affect the city?
Different buildings.
Well, I think there are 2 things here. The second meter is just the irrigation meter. There are two things that with the Biscayne Landings development, initially, the last time the development was in, in for permitting, they were using recycled or reused water from the wastewater plant as part of the irrigation system, which,
So what you're saying that would not be affecting us in any ways?
right.
Okay.
Number 4? I mean, number 3.
No question. You said $1 million was put aside for capital improvement projects.
Yes,
And
for
that's
water
what-
and sewer capital improvement
Only
projects.
water and sewer.
Water and sewer
Yes.
capital improvement
Oh,
projects.
okay.
Yes,
All
yes.
the other capital improvement.
Oh, I thought the
That's separate. This is
amphitheater was
enterprise
included.
funds money only.
No, no,
Water and sewer money only.
I thought the 400,000 for the amphitheater was included in that $1 million. No?
No, it's
Or
not.
water and sewer only. Okay.
No, number 3.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, so finally, District 3 and District 1 and District 2, because as Councilman Galvin mentioned, this has been in discussion for a very long time, for years now. And the only thing that when I met with the city manager and Duke, you told me that you were, it was 50%. So what I'm hearing up here is 100%, that you guys recommend 100%. So that was kind of like deceiving, because I was under the impression that it was 50%. So, anyways, let's move on.
Anyway,
And at the same time, are you gonna conduct a study for the rest of the city
well,
to
that's
find ways to lower the water bill also?
Because we just increased the water bill.
that's the proposition, because when I sit
And
in
every year we keep increasing the water bill. And
yeah,
Yeah.
when I sit and reflect on this, Mr. Director, Mr. Councilman Bien-Aimé, I think it would behoove us to be a bit more responsible here. If we are going to touch, the second meter issue, and as you know, the water bill in general has been a very important issue whenever elections, campaigning time comes. And I'm not against, voting for either 50, 75, or whatever percent reduction, but I think it would be wise to reevaluate the whole rate system. First, second meter in general for the entire city, not just for the east side, but for the west side as well. That would only be fair. Okay? That would only be fair, and at which time I would agree to eliminate the fee 100%, and let's do another study to see how we would go about reevaluating the whole rate system. And if someone decides he or she wants a new second meter, they would just pay a one-time fee just for the meter. Fair enough? That's what I would move.
Yeah, that's when we need to have a study, because every year they receive a letter that said the water bill is going to be increased. Now you're going to lower the water bill for a group of people and then increase it for another group of people. That's mean it should be one study for the entire city.
For the entire
That's what I
city?
think.
Yeah.
As
yeah.
early as tomorrow, people are going to say you lower the water bill for a few people, for about 600 people. What about the other 60,000, the other 50 plus residents? I think
Again, just a point to note, the water rate structure and the tiered rate structure that was adopted was based on the city's permit or city's withdrawal permit from the South Florida Water Management District, which recommended that as long as you have a consumptive, a withdrawal permit from the district, you must implement tiered rate structure or conservation or conservative rate structure. That is why the city implemented the rate structure that we had. Next fiscal year, that is going to be 4 years, and we will be putting in the budget to redo the study. In January, as I said, we'll be coming back with the water plant improvements. So at that stage, if there's any recommendation in moving the water plant and keeping rates, I wouldn't say reducing rates, but keeping rates at a straight line across the board, we will have to make a policy decision on how moving forward. You know.
Okay. All right. So my motion is to eliminate the base fee for the second meter, and also to go along. Oh, there was already a
We
motion.
already have a motion made by Vice Mayor Keys.
Well, an amendment. I would want to amend the motion.
We have a motion and a second on the floor already.
Okay. So let's finish that then. Okay, go ahead.
So how do you guys want to proceed?
No,
So we-
before we go to, sorry, Mayor, before we go to a vote, can the maker of the motion and
Withdraw.
give you
That's what I'm
permission
saying.
to put the friendly amendment?
Friendly amendment?
Friendly amendment is to withdraw, to eliminate the base fee 100%.
Second
and
base fee.
also to
conduct a study
to conduct
throughout the city
a study to reevaluate the whole rate system for the entire city.
Yeah, I'd take that friendly amendment.
Yeah.
I'd like to leave it up to the manager to get that started and not dive right into another study, because these studies are a fortune. So let's see what we can do in-house before we get another study.
I've already offered my services for free. Right, dude?
Well, the idea of the study or analysis, whatever internal analysis can be made for the entire city, is to see how we can alleviate the water bill in general for east side and west side for every single resident who pay water.
District 3 not part of it.
Okay. As I said before, next fiscal year it will be budgeted to do an updated study. So if it is the direction
we don't
that the
wanna wait
council
for
want to give,
next year.
or you want to do it this fiscal year?
2 years.
No, but we're gonna try to do it in house before we hire a firm.
You're gonna do it in-house anyway.
To see in house if we can. There's
It's
something
not gonna
that
cost
we
us
can do.
anything.
That last study was worthless. We could have done that in-house for what they charged us.
Okay.
Okay.
But we might have.
Okay, let me read the motion as is. So the motion was made by Councilwoman Vice Mayor Keys, seconded by Councilman Galvin, with the friendly amendment by Mayor Joseph. And the motion was made, Keys moved, to eliminate the second base charge altogether. And the amendment is, in addition to that, and to conduct a study to reevaluate the entire water system for the entire city.
And any new second meter would be charged only a one-time fee.
In addition to that,
Can we make that part
In
of the
addition-
study, how we want to go forward with it?
in addition to
No,
that,
but if they request the meter, isn't there a fee for the actual meter?
Yeah, there's a standard rate structure as it is right now. 3/4 inch would cost you 700.
Okay, so we don't need to include
A
that.
1
Okay.
inch is
So that-
875.
Okay.
let me reread
It's already in the ordinance.
Let me reread the amendment, the motion so we can have a clear record. The motion was made by Councilwoman Keys, Vice Mayor Keys, seconded by Councilman Galvin. Keys moved to eliminate the second base charge altogether, and this is the friendly amendment made by Mayor Joseph, to conduct a study to reevaluate the entire water rate system for the entire city. And because this is an ordinance, anyone who wishes to record a no. Item passes 5-0.
Finally, for 2 years.
Tab Q, discussion regarding city attorney automatic renewal of employment contract.
Do we need public hearing on that? No? That's it.
Mr. Mayor, I'd motion that we, I'm seeing people now looking and saying, so yeah, I'd motion that we have public discussion if you so choose.
Good evening, everyone.
Mr. Mayor, before we open public hearing on the item, can we have some explanation about it before we move?
Okay.
What it is exactly?
Yeah, what exactly that we are discussing, Mr. Clerk, or is it Mr. Manager?
Or Councilwoman Keys?
Okay.
She's the one who sponsored the item.
Okay, you want me to speak before public hearing?
Sure.
Not to exactly.
Just to explain what the discussion will
what
be
we try
about.
to do.
Okay.
Because we don't want people to start talking and then
Okay.
that's not your intention.
Okay. First of all, we have a contract with our city attorney. It's one of our larger contracts. And what came to my attention, and this is one of the main reasons for the discussion, is that there is an automatic renewal of our city attorney's contract. It's a 3-year contract. And there's a provision that if we do not supply written notice followed by a resolution, the contract will automatically renew. That time for notifying our attorney that what we want to do about this, if we are not going to automatically renew this contract, we need to give notice, I think today or tomorrow. My displeasure is, I want to know, Mr. Manager, who in our city is responsible for notifying the council. It is the council's responsibility to approve, ratify, terminate our city attorney's contract. Our city clerk is the keeper of the contracts. Does our clerk just keep them in a drawer and not look at them?
Yes.
Okay. You had that answer.
I did.
But we can't let this happen. I did not realize this. This was brought to me by various emails, by residents. It's a little embarrassing. And someone said to me, you know, there's a 90-day provision. I said, I knew the contract was up in March. I did not realize there was a written requirement for notification. So that is the reason I put this on the agenda, is because us as a council need to discuss, are we going to let this contract automatically renew? Are we going to do a search? Are we going to renegotiate? We have to discuss what we want to do with our attorney's contract this evening, and that is the purpose for the discussion. My personal thoughts on this, and I've spoken to the attorney, and we've had a discussion. I think there are some clauses, and I'm not going to go into particulars, and it's not my intention to terminate anybody this evening, and it's not my intention to negotiate a contract this evening. But there are certain provisions in the contract, especially this 90-day written notice.
That can be discussed, afterward.
Yeah, so
I don't think we need to go into this now.
No, we don't have to.
No.
That's the main issue. Is I think what I would like to do is make a decision, if it's the council's pleasure, that we have to make a decision tonight. We either terminate, automatically renew, and the third option is to give notice this evening that we are not going to automatically renew the contract. I would like to renegotiate some of the terms. So,
Are you making a motion?
no, I'm just discussing. We've got public hearing. I'm just telling you what I'm thinking, because you asked me. And Ms. Modestine is here with us until March 11th through her contract. I would hope that maybe we could negotiate some of the terms that we're not happy with in that contract and come to an agreement before the expiration. But I do feel if we're not going to automatically renew, then I'm going to rely on our attorney to give the proper written notice and prepare whatever resolution that is required so that the contract is not automatically renewed if that's not the pleasure of the council. I'm not up here to terminate the attorney this evening. I'm just here to give notice to council and the world.
You mean you are not here to ask to terminate her?
No, I'm not asking to terminate. I'm
Yeah,
just here
that's
to
what I'm
bring up
saying.
the fact that we have a 90-day written notice requirement, and if we don't do something and we don't make a decision this evening, we have a 3-year contract that's going to automatically renew.
Okay.
But
Public
if
hearing
I-
is open.
And if I understand Councilwoman Keys, if I read the contract, and I think tonight we need to make a decision, because when we are looking at Section 3 term, he said 90 days before the expiration of the contract, the city council need to make a decision. If we don't do so, the contract will be automatically renewed for the same term and condition. That's mean tonight we need to say, okay, either we want to renew the contract as it is, or we want to renew the contract with any amendments we want to bring on the table. If that's what I read, City Attorney. Is that correct?